Hello. Hello, hello, hello. How's everybody doing? Nobody's in here yet. That's okay. That gives me time to pull up the Mariners and their wonderful box score. Everything's good. Everything's great. What could anyone complain about? Also gives me a chance to link this YouTube. My oh why. My oh why. There it is. There's one of you in here now. Hi. Twitter. Come talk baseball with me, please. I need this. Oh boy, oh boy. Dylan, that did stink. Now that sucked. It sucked. You're 100% right. You're 100% right. Well, let's get started. Mariners will lose. They lost 5-3. They fall to 47-39 on the season, and they lose 2 of 3 against the Minnesota Twins. Go over the scoring plays. First inning, Trevor Larnach singles to center to score Willie Castro. That makes it 1-0. Fifth inning, Russell Martin doubles to left to score Max Kepler 2-0. And Jose, not Ariel Miranda, singles to left to score Austin Martin 3-0. Mariners get 2 in the fifth. Julio Rodriguez grounds into a fielder's choice to the pitcher to score Dylan Moore, and Luke Raley reaches on an infield single to score Josh Rojas 3-2. Seventh inning, Jorge Polanco singles to right to score Luke Raley. That ties the game at 3-3. But then Trevor Larnach homers to center in the eighth off Ryan Stanek, 5-3. Mariners unable to push a run across. This was I know they didn't get swept. There was a sweep-like feeling to this one. Wasn't there? This one kind of felt sweep-like. Like they were thoroughly outplayed, even with Minnesota trying to hand them some games. There was a sweep-like feeling to this one. I don't think there's any doubt about it. Feel free to leave your questions. I'll answer them as we go. The offense was miserable. Polanco had the only true hit with runner in scoring position the whole series. Yep. And I'm still confused how that ball wasn't caught, if I'm being completely honest with you. I'm not saying Polanco didn't hit it hard, but a little better effort from the right fielder, and they go over. Some positives. Luke Raley had a really nice game and then not left the game with an injury, but it looked like he got hurt. I was going to wait and see what they had to say about that because he looked like he was limping pretty good. If you guys get any information on that while we're recording, I'd really appreciate it. I'd also appreciate you guys hitting like and subscribe. Helps the channel a lot. But yeah, Luke Raley had a nice day. Crawford got on twice. Starting to see that on base percentage tick up. That's about it. Julio hit a couple of balls decently, but right at guys. And that's just been the story of the year. And yeah, so we can just, Nelson, thank you so much for showing up. Luis Castillo pitched fine. I wouldn't say he was great by any stretch of the imagination. He wasn't missing a lot of bats, but like 2 of the RBI hits were 75 miles per hour. That's just bad luck. They get RBI hits on my balls that are hit 75 miles per hour. I didn't see the exit velocity on the ball Julio hit Carlos Santana. I'm guessing it was considerably more than 75 miles per hour. There was some bad luck in this series. Now, the Mariners create their own luck too, right? And, well, let's stick with some positives. Voth pitched well. Baumann pitched well. Thornton pitched well. There's a guy I'm leaving out. I thought the pitching was fine today. The offense, though. Man, oh man. By the way, 94 point. That's it. I thought that ball was hit way harder. Interesting. Well, that's not clobbered by any stretch of the imagination. I thought that ball was lined much harder than that, but curious what the expected batting average was on that. Yeah, there's the Rangers are out of this thing. Barring Jacob deGrom coming back and being Jacob deGrom and them making a bunch of deals, I think the Rangers are out of this thing. But another win for the Astros. At least they were winning. Last time I checked, it was like 9 or 8-5 in the top of the 10th. 570 expected batting average. Again, lower than I thought, but thank you, Dylan. I appreciate it. 10-5 now. Oof, McGoof. And this was a series against a good team, and you got thoroughly outplayed. Yeah, I did see that it was Matt Festa. Nelson and Dylan, you guys are now best friends because you both basically tweeted the same thing or Facebook messaged the same thing. And look, Ryan Stanek has been really good as of late, but this is my concern with Ryan Stanek, right? This is my concern that he just doesn't have the swing and miss stuff to be your second best reliever. I don't think he does anyway. He's a solid middle inning guy. But if he's the guy who's pitching in that situation for you, I don't feel super confident. I'm getting more confident, or I was. But then there's just those reminders. And I'm not asking him to be perfect. I'm just concerned. You got to go get another high leverage reliever. Have to. By the way, this is such a funny looking box score because I missed this. I kind of missed this, but you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys show up in the 5th spot today because Mitch Garver gets hit by a pitch. And because he was the catcher today, and because Big Dumper was in the lineup as the designated hitter today, you had to get rid of your DH. And before anybody goes too nuts about why aren't you having Castillo bunt there, absolutely not. You do not have a guy who I guarantee hasn't taken batting practice all year. I realize he's hit in the National League before. There's no way in hell you are risking either a back injury or a finger injury to move a runner to third base. Nope, absolutely not. 100% the right thing to have him just stand there, or right-handed, stand there. That's what you got to do. And it sucks. And it's a problem with the roster right now because you have to have, as mediocre as Big Dumper has been, you have to have him in the lineup, right? So, like, when he's catching, you take a huge risk. And it hurt them because that spot got 0 hits. Castillo, Logan, and Miller were all good enough to win, but boy, all of them looking tired. Yeah, I would agree with that too, Nelson. They've worked those guys hard. And Miller in particular is a guy who, doesn't have a big buildup. It'd be nice to be able to skip Miller here and there, but you really can't. You just really can't skip any of these guys right now. Oof. What inning was it that all the chaos happened? I mean, I would not be not surprised, Dakota, is how I would phrase that. I mean, the way they're playing, if you keep losing series, and this is what, 4 straight series they've lost? 3? 4? Something like that. You keep doing this, yeah. Especially with Houston playing much better. And they're going to get Kyle Tucker back, and yeah. Curious about your thoughts on this take. Mariners' number 1 trade target should be Vlad just so Houston doesn't get him. I don't think the Mets trade Alonso after this run they went on. I think that getting Vladdy Jr. and keeping him from Houston is a nice added benefit. I would just want Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I think he's a really good player. Just a really good player. And I think him and Julio would be a wonderful building block offensively. I think that would be an awesome pickup. And the fact that Houston doesn't get him is a nice thing. And I would agree with you too, because of the way the National League is set up, I don't think that the Mets are going to sell. I'm not sure if they're buyers, but I don't think they're going to be selling. They tried to cut down strikeouts, and now they are 30th out of 30 in strikeouts, and 29 isn't even close, and 30th in batting average. When do you blame the person who built the lineup? 100%. There's a ton of blame that goes towards Dipoto and Hollander. A ton of blame. Just a smorgasbord. And I don't hate either of those guys as people, but you take a look at this roster, and it's not good enough. It's not good enough. Steph, it's not very fun right now. It's not very fun right now. Does Houston have enough prospect capital to get Garrett Crochet? If Houston added him, I'd be very worried. I don't think so. I don't see a system that could get you that, unless I'm trying to think if there's a young MLB player who'd like be really super appetizing towards them. No, I don't think so. Garrett Crochet is going to cost a ton, and it should. And apparently there's a bunch of stuff out about how they engaged on some contract extension stuff, and the Crochet camp rebuked pretty heavily. I still would be surprised if he got moved, but it's looking more and more likely. And I don't think Houston has enough. Teams that would have, Seattle would have enough if you wanted to do that. I don't think it would make sense to move a ton of capital for a player like that, just because you have so many needs elsewhere. It makes sense in the offseason, if you made a trade where you moved Miller or Wu, getting a guy like Crochet. Yeah. But there's going to be teams that go hard after him. Baltimore could certainly get him. Atlanta couldn't. Guardians, no. Kansas City, no. Texas could. Texas could for sure. Dodgers could. Diamondbacks could. Maybe. Brewers probably could. So, yeah. But, yeah, if they got Garrett Crochet, that would be really concerned, because that dude is special. And, yeah, Fetty would make sense for Houston as well. Fetty would absolutely make sense for Houston as well. I was talking about that situation, and just what a weird series, by the way. I mean, you see, that was the first time a Mariner pitcher had hit since Jason Hamill in 2014. Holy crap on a cracker, that's a long time ago. So you see that. You see some bizarre defensive plays. You see Byron Buxton just flat out not catch a baseball because he can't flip and find it. You see them not have anybody cover first base on that same inning. It was a weird series with a ton of weird baseball plays. Like, think about the fact that the Mariners won that game on Friday with 3 of the flukiest runs that you'll ever have. Thank goodness they won that game. Thank goodness. Thank goodness for every win, but avoiding a sweep, I think, is pretty darn big. But you get the bases loaded, and then Ryan Bliss, who I like a lot, had a horrific at-bat and was trying to do way too much. I get it. Try and play hero. I appreciate hitters who try to do too much more than hitters that don't try to do anything. But you're just trying to put the ball in play there, man. And boy, oh boy, did you get worked. And then Jorge Polanco, who, look, did drive a baseball an inning later. But that at bat from Jorge Polanco, middle, 94 miles per hour, and you hit it about 65 feet, is pathetic. It's pathetic. It was probably the worst at bat that I've seen from a Seattle Mariner this year when you consider the situation. And good for him for coming up clutch later. you know. But boy, oh boy, had a chance to do some damage. Bases loaded, one out, and Bliss and Polanco absolutely crapped the bed. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating because I know Jorge Polanco's been terrible. I mean, terrible. But we've seen success from this guy before. And I know that Ryan Bliss is just a young player, but we've seen success from him too. There has to be, not only on top of blaming Dipoto and Hollander and Stanton, who I blame the most, if I'm just being honest with you, because of his financial limitations. As much as I want to blame those guys, the players have to hit. There are talented guys here who just aren't doing the job. Yeah, Nelson, that's the thing about Polanco too. And you saw it during his rehab assignment, I'm sure. Those highlights of like some of the balls that he was just mollywopping. And then all of a sudden, comes to Seattle. Why can nobody hit when he come to Seattle? Ichiro is maybe the best hitter of his time playing in Seattle his whole career. I mean, they had Edgar and Griffey and A-Rod and those guys. But look, there's no doubt about it that the Mariners have brought in some really good players who end up stinking. And the frustrating thing is they've brought in, at times, some really good players who go elsewhere after they stink in Seattle and hit really well. Some of it's player development, some of it's coaching, some of it's bad luck. There's no denying that there is at least some luck. I'm not definitely making an excuse for any of this. But goodness gracious, like look at Jesse Winker. And look, Jesse Winker had a situation. He had a situation. He moved across the country. He was away from his family. It didn't work out. And there's some of that to be blamed for Seattle too. But look at what he's doing now. Look at what Jared Kelenic, is doing now. And Jared Kelenic was actually fine last year. He wasn't great, but he was a solid player. Look at what he's doing right now. It's crazy, the second base position, especially, Dylan. And look, Robinson Cano was a really good player for the Seattle Mariners. He probably didn't live quite up to the hype, but very solid player. I'm not blaming Robinson Cano for anything that went wrong with the Seattle Mariners. But oof, magoof. Adam Frazier, Jorge Polanco, Colton Wong. I mean, that's three of some of the worst offensive players in baseball thus far. Part of me wonders if Teo and Polanco even wanted to come here. It might be affecting the mentals. Yeah. I'm just telling you right now, Seattle is not the first choice of a lot of baseball players or a lot of people. It is for some, and there's people who love it. I've been told many times that Felix Hernandez was basically told by his family that they're not going anywhere. That certainly helps. But when you get traded here and you don't pick coming here, you're getting put in this isolated corner of the United States that doesn't have quite the cultural connection, and especially with Latin American, Dominican Republic, Venezuelan players, there's something to it. There's something to it. Mental health matters, not just in life, but of course with sports. Of course with sports. And I don't want that to come across as the excuse for why the Mariners have flubbed so much of this right now. Dustin Frazier was pretty bad. Like if you take it, I'm going to look at those numbers just to make sure I'm not a crazy person. But Adam Frazier, let's just look at his reference page. I just need to make sure that I'm not insane. With the Seattle Mariners, he hit. Now, he did have a huge hit. He had a 612 OPS, 238, 301, 311. That's pretty bad. But yeah. Yeah, and he wasn't great with Baltimore last year either, and he's been really bad with Kansas City as well. But I do thank him very much for a massive hit against Toronto. But it's just crazy how bad the second base position for Seattle's been, considering Seattle's had some great second basemen in their past. Brett Boone should have won an MVP. Harold Reynolds was a solid baseball player. Robinson Cano, Joey Cora was a solid player. They've had some good ones, but boy, oh boy. I'm not looking forward to doing that video, to be honest with you. The greatest second baseman of all time. I'm working on the first baseman one right now, or am I working on the third base one? I could never. Oh, yeah. Carlos Correa would have looked great here. Carlos Correa would have looked great here. This is a series that's totally understandable to lose, right? You can't win every home series. They'd won like 9 straight. They were trying to match the record set by the 2001 Seattle Mariners. He didn't, Dustin. Adam Frazier hit he hit 238. And yeah, that's better than Polanco. That's fair. I see what you're saying now. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. What was I talking about? It's understandable to lose a series. But you just see the cracks. You see the issues. And you just come away really concerned. Mario Mendoza would rank pretty high on this team and every other team, it seems like right now, Justin. Yeah, we can claim Jose Cruz Jr. We can claim him. You just see the issues. And I hope that Hollander and Dipoto and Stanton are taking a look at the amazing crowds they got today. No, that's okay. I think you probably confused him with Julio Cruz, who played second base for the Seattle Mariners. Anyway, you take a look at those amazing crowds. You take a look at how the team played this week. And I hope your takeaway is we have a golden opportunity here. We still, even as much as we have stunk out loud for the last 2 weeks, have a 3.5 game lead on the division and a flawed baseball team, right? A flawed baseball team behind them. Now, the Mariners are flawed too, obviously. See what's happened the last few days. But I hope they're watching this and come thinking, we got a real chance. We got a real chance, but we got to act now. And it's going to be hard to act now because of the fact that there are just so many teams still in it. How many teams are really sellers right now? Would take Carlos Santana over Haniger at this point? Yeah, I would too. And I don't like saying that. Mitch Haniger has been a wonderful Seattle Mariner. But this is just not good enough. I don't think, if we're sellers, I will be distraught as well. But I don't think it's going to come to that. And based on how they're playing, it's not it's not out of the question. Without question, it's not out of the question. But oh my gosh. Texas leading 2-1 right now over Baltimore, by the way. So I still think they're done. But you've got to act now. You have got to act now. You have to go out and make this team better. So yeah, Julio. I've been holding out hope for weeks that Julio's breakout was coming, but we're past the halfway point now. Should we consider the possibility that this will be a bad season for Julio? A bad offensive season? Yes. Yeah, 100%. Because he's just not driving the baseball. Now, I did see some stats today that gave me a little bit of hope. And I know people don't want to hear this stuff. I almost said the bad word. Shout out Pioneer Elementary. Okay, going to get those up right now. Julio Rodriguez, Savant. Okay. So, and again, hard contact only goes so far, right? You got to have results. But just let me give you some numbers that give me some reason for optimism, okay? Or pausing on the Julio Rodriguez is not going to be good in 2024 page, okay? Against 4-seam fastballs, he is slugging 400. His expected slugging percentage against four-seam fastballs is 495. Against sliders, he's slugging 333. His expected slugging percentage against sliders is 452. Against sinkers, his slugging percentage is 477. His expected slugging percentage is 569. There's no denying that Julio Rodriguez isn't making enough offensive difference, in my opinion. But there's also no denying that he has been an extremely unlucky hitter, at least in terms of hitting for power. And I do believe that that power will come in the second half. I don't really care about the batting average that much. I prefer him to hit 270, 280 and get on at that 350, 360 clip. But I would expect much bigger things, at least in terms of power, from Julio Rodriguez. But you can't completely rule it out. This is a large sample size now of being a pretty below average hitter. And it's disappointing. It's disappointing considering how good he was in 2022 and 2023. But yeah, I just want to see him pull the baseball some more as well, Dylan. But those slugging percentage numbers tells you that he should be getting more doubles. And he should be, using the math. The math of those expected exit velocities don't add up. He's not just getting unlucky over hundreds of at-bats. I mean, this is math, Dustin. This isn't me making up numbers. This is baseball savant. They're there. Should we consider bringing up Logan Evans and sending down Bizardo? Yeah, I haven't heard a whole heck of a lot about how he's looked lately. I've been a little busy, but yeah, absolutely. Burns and Grayson coming up, so it'll only get to Corbin Burns is probably just going to wreck this lineup. And Grayson Rodriguez's stuff is filthy too, so it's a tough series, man, and that's why I thought you really needed to win this one, because the Orioles are a better team than the Seattle Mariners. The Orioles are a much better team than the Seattle Mariners. So I think if Garver is out for a while, we should call up Ford. Interesting. Haven't really given that a lot of thought. It's not the worst idea. You at least can give him a look, I don't hate it. Evans has thrown back-to-back a couple times now. Haven't seen that he's been getting knocked around. Well, I think it's worth a look. This bullpen has to get better. Has to. I don't want to be too harsh on Ryan Stanek, who I feel like I was really harsh on earlier in the year. And it wasn't so much that I was harsh on Stanek. I was harsh on Stanek being that next guy, the guy behind Munoz. And I'm still not confident in him being that. Blame Stanek and putting Bliss up with bases loaded was a mistake. Let Robles hit there. Interesting. I think one of the reasons why I would go with Robles in that situation is that it would allow you to maneuver some things a little bit, So maybe I think I have more confidence in Robles hitting the baseball. He may not hit it hard, but you didn't need it to hit hard. You just needed something. And yeah, Stanek wasn't good enough today. Not even close to good enough today. Frustrating. Can you guys hear my dog snoring, by the way? She's 13 and she can sleep through anything. I'm borderline screaming in her ear right now. She's literally right behind me. And all I hear is that dog snoring. I love her to death. Well, we did this for about a half an hour. Thank you guys so much. I think we lost the division. No, I don't think they've lost the division. I think that one of the cool things about building up a big division lead is that you can have scuffles like this and still have a couple, not a couple handfuls, not even a handful anymore, but you still have a 3.5 game lead. Dustin will just have to agree to disagree on that one, buddy. I'm not saying they're perfect by the way. There are so many other numbers that major league teams have that they won't show us. So fair enough. But the eye test tells me that Julio's hit the ball hard a lot. He hit the ball hard today. It went right to a first baseman. But I want to see him driving the baseball. I want to see him pulling the baseball. I'm going to be okay with watching Julio fly out to left field a few times if that's the approach that he's taking. If that's the approach. And yeah, Robles has looked good. I would start using him more as well. And if Luke Raley is hurt, anybody hear anything about Luke Raley yet? I haven't seen anything, but he looked to be in a good amount of pain. Good amount of pain. So, yikes. Please hit like. I really appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't yet. They said he will be fine. Whew. They need Luke Raley, man. They cannot afford to lose Luke Raley, and that is sad. That Luke Raley is so important to this offense is sad. Anyway, if you guys don't mind hitting the like button before you leave, we'll have a live chat on Tuesday during the game for Mile Wise subscribers, the enthusiasts. $4.99 a month. Totally understand that's not for everybody, but really appreciate the support. Thank you guys for your questions. Thanks for not making me just record a normal one of these things because I had no desire to just talk about that stuff. Garver x-rays negative. Raley is expected to be fine. Well, good. Some positive news for otherwise a pretty crappy game. Thanks so much, guys. We'll talk to you again soon. See ya.